All right, we're going to review really quickly before you take your test tomorrow. So number one, solve the system below. Whenever we're solving a system, we usually use a calculator page. And we press menu 3, 2. And we keep our two equations. And so we type the first equation in the first box and the second equation in the second box. But the second equation says y equals, and then you have to put a fraction before you can type the rest of it. 15 plus 8x over 7. And we get our answer of 50 over 13, comma 85 over 13. And so my answer here was B. Number 2, the graphs of lines K of 1 and K of 2 are shown on the grid. Which system of equations is best represented by this graph? And this one is similar to what was on your quiz the other day. And all you're doing is graphing these two equations to see which one matches. And so if I go to my calculator and I go to a graph page, I can delete the equal sign and pick a relation. I'm typing in letter A, 3x minus y equals 6. And I notice that it crosses down here at -6, which is where it crosses on my paper. And then if I press tab, I can type in my second equation, 4x plus 9y equals 4. And this one crosses almost in the middle of 0 and 1. And so if I look at my paper, I cross down here at -6, I cross in the middle between 0 and 1, and A is actually my answer. If that wasn't my answer, I would just go to a new graph page and I would type in the next set of equations, and you're looking specifically to see where they cross and which direction they're going. Number 3, which is a solution to this inequality? Remember, solutions are on solid lines or in the shaded area. And so I'm going to go graph it. Control Doc, add a new graph page. We're going to delete our equal sign and pick a relation. And my inequality says y is greater, and to get greater you press Control equal, greater than 3x minus 2. And so if I look at this line, the line is dotted, so dotted lines don't count. And now I'm going to plot my points. I have 3, -3, which is not in the shaded area, so A is out. I have 0, -5, which is also not in the shaded area. I have -1, 1, which is in the shaded area. And then I have 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is on the dotted line. So that's not an answer. So that's on a dotted line. So C was my answer. Okay, number 4, Mr. Harrington's farm is 20 acres smaller than twice Mr. Grover's farm. Together the farms contain 109 acres. Write a system that could be used to determine the number of acres in Mr. Grover's farm G and the number of acres in Mr. Harrington's farm H. And so we know that they have a total of 109 acres, so that would mean G plus H equals 109. But our second equation comes from this. Mr. Harrington's farm is 20 acres smaller than twice Mr. Grover's farm. Harrington is H. Is your equal sign. So my equation has to start out by saying H equals. So that means these two are out. 20 acres smaller means I take away 20. This one's taking away 2G, which means D is my answer. But twice means multiply by 2, twice Grover, twice G. So now I have my two equations, and if I go to my calculator page, menu 3, 2, and actually I'm going to undo that. I'm going to press menu 3, 2, but I'm going to change my variables to G and H. And you can do that by putting a comma in the middle. And so now I can type them in the way I see them. H equals 2g minus 20. And then the second equation is g plus h equals 109. And the question asks, how many acres are on Mr. Grover's farm? Well, Grover is the first letter, which means it's the first number. So there are 43 acres on Mr. Grover's farm. All right, number 5. On number 5, it says the graphs of linear functions f and h are shown on the grid. Which function is best represented by the graph of h for this situation? So here is f. If you couldn't tell, that's f. That is your parent function. And then h is right here. And if you're looking at this, you should say that they stayed at the same spot, so nothing was being added or subtracted. But h is less steep, which means I need a fraction. So, and f of x, if you know that this is your parent function, then it's kind of like saying 4x or 1/4 x. And so this makes it less steep, or you can count your slope. Up 1, right 1, 2, 3, 4. 1/4 is my slope, so that makes C my answer. Okay, if you got that, at this point, I need you to write Frosty the Snowman in this extra space right here. Okay, number 6, Zane is selling chocolate bars and Dum-Dums to raise money for a school trip. The chocolate bars cost $3.25 each, and the Dum-Dums cost $1.67 or 76 each. Write an inequality that represents the number of chocolate bars C and the number of Dum-Dums D sold to raise at least $500. At least means greater or equal. And so I need a symbol that looks like this, greater or equal. So those two are automatically out. And then I match up my number with my variable. So chocolate bars are C, chocolate bars are $3.25. So that has to go with C. And so now I'm down to only D as my answer. On the back, number 7, which of the following inequalities best describes the graph shown? And if I look at these answer choices, I should graph each of them to see which one matches. And I will tell you that if you graph A, it's going to cross up here at 2. So even though everything else will match, it will cross at 2, which means it's not your answer. If you graph this one, it's going to give you a dotted line. And so dotted line, this is a solid line, so even though everything else will match, it won't match with the dotted line. And then I graph these two. And if I were to graph it, this one is greater than or equal to, so I would shade above. And this one is less than or equal to, so I would shade below. And my graph is shaded below, which means this is my answer. But on the test tomorrow, what you should do is graph this inequality, and we've already practiced graphing several of them. Number 8. What is the equation in slope-intercept form of the line that passes through 8, -5, and is perpendicular to the line represented by y equals 4/7x plus 2? So remember, perpendicular means opposite sign and then reciprocal slope, which means you flip the fraction. So my slope right now is 4/7, and if I change it, I make it negative, and if I flip it upside down, I make it -7/4, which means those two are out. Of the two that are left, I need to go to a graph page and see which one crosses this. So I'm going to first graph this, So I'm going to go back to my calculator, but I want you to know I'm graphing letter C. I'm going to delete the equal sign and pick a relation, and it says y equals negative 7 over 4x minus 19. And remember, you press menu 5-1, and if you type in 8 and press enter, it would tell you the answer, which is negative 33. So we graph it, and then we do menu 5-1, type the x value, which is 8. And this one gives me negative 33, so that's not my answer. But if I go change it to letter D, which says plus 9, and I press menu 5-1 again, and I type in 8 and press enter. Oops, I put 88. There we go. It gives me negative 5, which is what we wanted up there. So D is your answer on number 8. Number 9, the graphs of linear functions f and h are shown on the grid. Which function is best represented by the graph of h for each situation? So f is your parent function, and this time h and f are parallel lines. So if they are parallel, well, you can't even see that. Okay, if they are parallel, that means the slope is the same, so the number in front of x has to be the same, so I'm not doing anything with that. But my graph did move down 5 units, and if it moves down, it's a minus sign, so D, again, is my answer. All right, number 10. A bus travels 2 different routes, the red route and the orange route, and the routes are different lengths. For today, we are going to call the red route X and the orange route Y. And so on Wednesday, the bus traveled the red route 8 times, so 8X, plus the orange route 7 times, so 7Y, equals 43.1. And then on Thursday, the bus traveled the red route 16 times and the orange route 21 times, for a total of 102.7 miles. What is the length of each route in miles? So here's where you go to your calculator, and then we do menu 3-2, and we type in our equations. 8x plus 7y equals 43.1, and then 16x plus 21y equals 102.7. And so that is my answer, which matches up with letter B. Okay, last question. Number 11, what is the equation of the line graphed below? And so what you're going to do is just go to a graph page and type each of these in. But you should be saying, hey, this is my slope. And my slope is negative. And therefore, I eliminate the positive answers. And after that, I have 2 negative answers. And where does it cross the y-intercept? At 5, which means B is my answer.